All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to Monday Night Law here with Kirk's Law Corner. This is what, July 24th? Yeah, July 24th, 2023. Oh, what good times, right? Crazy stuff going on out there all around the world. We need to start paying attention to what's going on here in America and what's going on right directly in front of us. But tonight I'm going to be going over, for those who remember last week, Monday Night Law, referred to the Law of Nations from the Constitution. So we're going to touch back on that a little bit, and we're going to go to the Law of Nations. Let me see here. All right. Sure. No, okay. I think I should be able to close that. All right. All right. Just in case. I don't think I'll play any video, but I might. Where is... this one? Yeah, it'll work. A little left over from Wednesday night workshop there. But let's go back to the Constitution there. Oh, where was that? I think it was Article 1, Section 8, right? Right here. To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. So clearly, from the Constitution, the law of nations is a body of law. Because that's offenses against the law of nations. Now, we've discussed this a few times. I've discussed this many times here. The law of nations is the laws of nature. And Emmer D. Vattel wrote the Law of Nations, or the Principles of the Laws of Nature. So let's say, just take a look at some definitions from Bouvet's Law Dictionary, 1856. Law of Nations. That would be that science which teaches the rights subsisting between nations or states and the obligations correspondent to those rights. Vattel's Law of Nations, preliminaries, section 3 there. Now, let me see if I can do this without messing myself up too bad. I'm going to try and remember this by writing it down. So we'll go to that preliminaries, section 3. Okay, where'd we go? Let's see, are we in the yeah, here we go. So here's section 3 of the Law of Nations, written by Emery D. Vattel. Exactly what was cited there in Bouvet's Law Dictionary 1856. To establish on a solid foundation the obligations and rights of nations is the design of this work. The Law of Nations is a science which teaches the rights subsisting between nations or states and the obligations correspondent to those rights. In this treatise it will appear in what manner states, as such, ought to regulate all their actions. Right? This goes back to statutes for government civil conduct. It's supposed to regulate them. We shall examine the obligations of a people as well towards themselves as towards other nations, and by that means we shall discover the rights which result from those obligations. For the right being nothing more than the power of doing what is morally possible, that is to say, what is proper and consistent with duty. It is evident that right is derived from duty or passive obligation. So again, where there's a right, there's a duty. So when we delegate certain powers, that imposes a duty. Now, we cannot delegate a power we do not possess ourselves first. Common sense, logic, and reason here. If I don't have that power, I can't delegate that power. Just the way it is. It's a maxim of law. What I cannot do in my person, I cannot do through the agency of another. Murder is unlawful. Can I lawfully contract with another man to commit murder? I'm not saying that it doesn't. That's why I put in the word lawful. Can I lawfully? No. The answer is no, because murder is unlawful. Period. What body of law is that? God's law. Common law. Murder, rape, kidnapping are from the at common law, from God's law, is a capital offense. We don't need any legislation that says, murder is unlawful. It's supposed to be common sense. So we should already know this, right? Plain and simple. Common sense law here. Back over here. Make sure. There we go. Everybody can hear over there on Telegram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. Everything seems to be working great tonight. Imagine that. So, what is a nation? In what light nations or states are to be considered? Nations being composed of men, naturally free and independent, and who, before the establishment of civil societies, live together in the state of nature. Nations or sovereign states are to be considered as so many free persons living together in the state of nature. Now this is the place to cite that men are naturally free and independent. It is a settled point with writers on the natural law that all men inherit from nature a perfect liberty and independence, of which they cannot be deprived without their own consent. Now, in a state, the individual citizens do not enjoy them fully and absolutely because they have made a partial surrender of them to the sovereign. But the body of the nation, the state, remains absolutely free and independent with respect to all other men, all other nations, as long as it has not voluntarily submitted to them. Now, when we get into in the state, the individual citizens are the public servants, the ones who are bound to perform certain duties. Who are members of a civil society. Okay? We can jump right back down here to subsection 212 real quick, just to reaffirm that while we're right here in this video. Even though I've showed this, I've cited this many times. This is Book 1, Chapter 19, subsection 212, which we're getting close. Oops, I went just a hair too far. Come on. So these are the ones right here. Citizens and natives. The citizens are members of a civil society. Full stop. The word members. Again, keep that word in mind. The next word is bound to this society by certain duties and subject to its authority. They equally participate in its advantages, those emoluments. Any advantages, profits, or gains received due to one's position, employment, or holding of office. That's an emolument. Okay? So, are you on the clock? Are you under oath and on the clock? That's when you give up in exchange. You give up certain parts of your rights in exchange for the emoluments of the office. It's just that's how that works, which is why we require them pursuant to Article 6, Clause 3. Right? Now, this is where I tie this together so it makes sense, logical sense, facts of law as it is written. Right here. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members. So all of these guys of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers. So they're all members. So if you're a member of the legislative branch, executive branch, or judicial branch, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, not the code. No, even if they're off the clock, they're still a citizen because they're under oath. Right? They're held to a higher standard. But, I mean, we still all, which I'll go back to that and read that in the preliminary, section 3, 4, actually it's 4, I believe. We still have the basic rights as man. It's just when we get this oath of office, when we take and receive the emoluments of that office, we are bound to perform certain duties. And while on the clock, they have to stay within that scope and authority of that emolument. They cannot exceed the laws of its creation. And the Constitution is the instrument of government that creates the president. It creates the governor. It even creates the process to bring them into being. Imagine that. It even gives certain terms and conditions like qualifications to run for office of president. You got to be 35 years of age. You have to be a citizen prior to that. You can't be an inhabitant or resident, which means you got to work your way up. You can't just come out of the forest and go, I'm going to run for president. You don't meet the minimum qualifications to run for the office of president. The same thing with senators and representatives. That's what that means there. When we look at Article 1. Right here. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained the age of 25 years of age and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of the state in which he shall be chosen. You have to already have served somewhere else. You can't be an inhabitant. So many people have already said this to me. Inhabitant, laughing at the word inhabitant. But here it is in the Constitution. Again, it's almost like our founders pulled from the law of nations when they wrote this. Absolutely. Because these are proper diction. These words, jurisdiction, they have meaning. Lawful meaning. Not constitutional meaning, but lawful. Full of law. Okay? Same thing with your senators. Okay? Senator of the United States shall be close to... No person shall be a senator shall not have attained the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of the state for which he shall be chosen. So clearly, there's a very clear distinction between a citizen and an inhabitant. Okay? We cannot deny these facts of law that are in writing right here in front of us, as it is written. Okay, good question about the oaths of office. Okay, over here on YouTube, the question is Shannon here's basically asking, is it specified? But by oath of office, does it specify if it has to be written oath by signature or oral oath? Kind of curious with all questions about no written oaths. Okay, that's the thing. Oaths are supposed to be, left hand on the Bible, right hand raised, under oath. And it's supposed to be signed, sworn, and subscribed by a notary, those who have the power to issue oaths. See, a notary has the power not only to do acknowledgments, but to administer oaths. It's one of the rights and emoluments of the office of notary. And that's exactly what my notary license says, that I have received all of the rights and emoluments of the office of notary. But you know what? I had to take an oath. I had to sign it. And it had to be subscribed by a notary. Now, this is a good question. I hear on Rumble. So, are you electing a person? No, you're electing a man to fill that position. The person in propria persona is president. The man acts as president. That's the person, the personality, personificance. Okay, governor is a person. It's a fiction. It's made up. Where is it made up? By the instrument of government. Well, who made the instrument of the government? The people. This is due process of law, and this part of due process of law, again, comes from the common law. The American common law, not the English common law. So we're electing a man, because it takes a man to act, because fictions don't exist. They're not among the living. So it always takes, it's always a man. Always. Every time. Never can a fiction take an action. Because it doesn't exist. That's why it's called a fiction. And okay, just to confirm this, let's go over here to the English Bill of Rights of 1689 and reiterate exactly what I just said in their proper person, in propria persona. Whoops, I think I went way past it. Right there. Right here. Whereas the Lord Spiritual General Commons assembled in Westminster lawfully, fully and freely representing all the estates of the people of this realm, did upon the 13th, right here, present unto their majesties, then called and known by the names and style. Okay, so first we've got two different things here, name and style. The person. The name is the man. Right here. William and Mary. That's the name. Now what's the style? Oh, what's the Prince and Princess of Orange? Being present in their proper persons. What's the persons there? That's the prince and princess. Because those are fictions. Okay? So hopefully that answers that question. No, the oath that I took for the notary is not the same as the oath I took in the Marine Corps. No, it does mean that. Question is, so when it says the president has to be a citizen, it doesn't mean someone that already was a public servant? No, it does mean. That's the thing. That these are part of the qualifications. You have to work your way up. You can't just come out of the forest as an inhabitant and run for president. So you would have to be in some other emolument. That's what a citizen of the United States is, right? Okay, we understand this. And I mean literally understand, stand in agreement. Right here, the citizens are the members that are bound to this society by certain duties and subject to its authority. So if you're not a member of the legislative, executive, or judicial branch, either state or federal, you're not a citizen. And then you're not subject to its authority either. You don't have the oath. You don't have the emoluments of your office, the rights and advantages. Okay? So this is one of those things where you're supposed to work your way up to running for senator or representative, federal-wise. Okay? So, and then you have to run there. You have to be in there for a little while before you can run for the office of president, which kind of blows me away that Trump was actually able to run for president because he's never held any office. Any. Not that I'm aware of. Now let's go look at that real quick before we get back to this. What is the qualifications to run for president? No person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible for the office of president. Neither shall any person be eligible for office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. Notice it doesn't say inhabitant or citizen. This is a qualification. You have to be a resident. Now, there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, you don't want to be a resident. Well, yes and no. It just depends. You know, everything's been so twisted. Don't go to the United States Code for a definition, because that's not a lawful definition. You have to go from the law, and that would be the law of nations. Because see, even right here, when it talks about this particular part here being a natural-born citizen, they cite Vittel, subsection 212. Well, I'll be darned. That's exactly what we're reading right here. That's the very next sentence. The natives or natural-born citizens are those born in the country of parents who are citizens. What? As this, see, it's so messed up how we do not, or lack of knowledge here. As a society cannot exist and perpetuate itself otherwise than by the children of the citizens, those children naturally follow the condition of their fathers and succeed to all their rights. The society is supposed to desire this in consequence of what it owes to its own preservation. Now, this is exactly what's happened over time here. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but all but two of our presidents now are all from the same family bloodline. What? That's right. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? But this is where they pull as a natural-born citizen, which is a qualification to run for office of president. Okay. Now let's look at the word inhabitant, the definition from the law of nations. This is real law, which we'll go back to Bouvet's and we'll reaffirm that. The inhabitants, as distinguished from citizens, are foreigners who are permitted to settle and stay in the what? Country. Bound to the society by their what? Residence. They are subject to the laws of the state while they reside in it, and they are obliged to defend it because it grants them protection, though they do not, pay attention, and though they do not participate in all the rights of citizens. So there is a very, very clear distinction between an inhabitant and a citizen, as we just read above. They enjoy only the advantage which the law or customs give them. What law? the law of nature, the common law. The common law is part of our customs. The perpetual inhabitants are those who have received the right of perpetual residence. These are a kind of citizens of an inferior order. Gee, I wonder what those types of inhabitants would be that establish their residence. Would be those ones that, I don't know, own a business. That's the different kind of citizen. And are united to the society without participating in all its advantages. Uh-oh. Their children follow the condition of their fathers, and as the state has given to these the right of perpetual residence, their right passes to their posterity. So this destroys the whole ideology of anchor babies. Well, the baby was born there. Doesn't matter. The baby is from where the father is from. Whatever the country is that the father is. That's where we get into the next section here. A nation, or the sovereign who represents it, may grant to a foreigner the quality of citizen by admitting him to the body of the political society. Now remember, the inhabitants are foreign. Inhabitants are foreigners. See, now, for me, I'm a business owner and a notary. So that moves me from basically an inhabitant to a resident. Really, it's more of a residence because I've established myself here and declared I live here in this country, Idaho. Idaho is a country. Oh yeah, to back up right here. I say that in order to be of the country, it is necessary that a person be born of a father who is a citizen. For if he is born there of a foreigner, it will be only the place of his birth and not his country. That destroys the anchor baby. And for those of you out there that are citing any United States code, you're wrong. Code is the Roman civil law. It is not law. This is the law. Stop citing United States Code as an authority. It is not. This is the higher authority. This is the law. This is what you need to be reading and citing as law. Not the code. No, that is, man, I've already reiterated this again. The word emolument is any advantage, profit, or gain received due to one's position of employment or holding of office. That is emolument. Advantages comes from the emoluments of the office. You know, a paycheck, the right to hold the title of president or governor. Those are some of those advantages. Or like having an office down at the Capitol. Not everybody has an office down at the Capitol. So that's an advantage of holding that office. Just like the legislators. Okay? They all have their own offices down there. That's one of the advantages of being an elected official. Stop trying to redefine what these words actually mean. Stop going to the United States Code and shit made up by some other people out there. Read real law Educate yourself on real law. This is the only way we're going to defeat this word salad bullshit from the bar. Pay attention and learn. Real diction, jurisdiction. This is a body of law. Law of nations. This is what needs to be read, comprehended, and then understood. These words, the definitions of these words, and what they mean in real law. So, again, that the inhabitants are, what? There are a kind of citizens of an inferior order and are united to the society without participating in all its advantages. Their children follow the condition of the fathers, and as the state has been given to these right of perpetual residence, their right passes to their posterity. Now that naturalization, again, a nation or the sovereign who represents it, which here in America, the nation called America, the people is the sovereign body politic. Now, again, who are the people? All right. So, some of this here is kind of a little out of what we're really getting into, but may grant to a foreigner quality of citizen by admitting him to the body of the political society. Notice it's to the political society, because you don't need to join anything or change your status to be an inhabitant, to be man, creation of God. We do not need to change. You can't change that status. That's fundamental. And it has to come first, because we're all creations of God. There's no way around it. The law of creation. Okay, folks, try to stay focused on what I'm trying to teach here and ask your questions revolving around the subject matter of what I'm trying to teach here. Okay, let's not get off topic and start asking questions about all these other things. Okay. So, technically speaking, you could be from the country of Idaho and then become naturalized. But see, all it really takes is for you to, start a business, become a taxpayer, establish your residence. There are some states in which the sovereign cannot grant to a foreigner all the rights of citizens, for example, that of holding public offices. And where consequently he has the power of granting only an imperfect naturalization. It is here a regulation of the fundamental law, which limits the power of the prince. In other states, as in England and Poland, the prince cannot naturalize a single person without the concurrence of the nation represented by its deputies. Finally, there are states, as for instance England, where the single circumstance of being born in the country naturalizes the children of a foreigner. 215, children of citizens born in a foreign country. It is asked whether children born of citizens in a foreign country are citizens. The laws have decided this question in several countries, and their regulations must be followed. By the law of nature alone, children follow the condition of their fathers and enter into all their rights. Section 212. The place of birth produces no change in this particular, and cannot, of itself, furnish any reason for taking from a child what nature has given him. I say of itself, for civil or political laws may, for particular reasons, ordain otherwise. But I suppose that the father has not entirely quitted his country in order to settle elsewhere. If he has fixed his abode in a foreign country, he has become a member of another society, at least as a perpetual inhabitant, and his children will be members of it also. As do children born at sea. They are born in those parts of it that are possessed by their nation. They are born in the country. If it is on the open sea, there is no reason to make a distinction between them and those who are born in the country. For naturally, it is our extraction, not the place of our birth, that gives us rights. And if the children are born in a vessel belonging to the nation, they may be reputed born in its territories. For it is natural to consider the vessels of a nation as part of its territory, especially when they sail upon a free sea, since the state retains its jurisdiction over those vessels. And as according to the commonly received custom, this jurisdiction is preserved over the vessels, even in parts of the sea subject to a foreign dominion. All the children born in the vessels of a nation are considered as born in its territory. For the same reason, those born of a foreign vessel are reputed born in a foreign country, unless their birth took place in a port belonging to their own nation. For the port is more particularly a part of the territory, and the mother, though at the moment on board a foreign vessel, is not on that account out of the country. I suppose that she and her husband have not quitted their native country to settle elsewhere. So, again, follow the conditions of the father. If the father is from Idaho and is in the military or out on a vessel, let's say going on vacation, going to the Caribbean, and the husband and wife, mother and father, whatever, have a baby outside of that, still from Idaho. Maybe born somewhere else, but they are still from the country of the father. Again, here it is right here. Children born in the armies of the state or in the house of its minister at the foreign court. For the same reasons, also children born out of the country in the armies of the state or in the house of its minister at a foreign court are reputed born in the country. For a citizen who is absent with his family on the service of the state, but still dependent on it and subject to its jurisdiction, cannot be considered as having quitted his territory. Settlements of fixed residence in any place with an intention of always staying there. A man does not then establish his settlement in any place unless he makes sufficiently known his intention of fixing there, either tacitly or by an express declaration. There's a key one right there. Declaration. However, this declaration is no reason why, if he afterwards changes his mind, he may not transfer his settlement elsewhere. Wait a minute. Okay. In this sense, a person who stops at a place upon business, even though he stay a long time, has only a simple habitation there, but has no settlement. Thus, the envoy of a foreign prince has not his settlement at the court where he resides. Imagine that. The natural or original settlement is that which we acquire by birth in the place where our father has his, and we are considered as retaining it till we have abandoned it in order to choose another. the acquired settlement, and whatever that is that where we settle by our own choice. Now, this is a good one. Vagrants are people who have no settlement. Consequently, those born of vagrant parents have no country, since a man's country is the place where, at the time of his birth, his parents had their settlement. 122. Or it is the state of which his father was then a member. There's that word again, member. Which comes to the same point. For to settle forever in a nation is to become a member of it, at least as a perpetual inhabitant, if not with all the privileges of a citizen. We may, however, consider the country of a vagrant to be that of his child, while the vagrant is considered as not having absolutely renounced his natural or original settlement. So I know it kind of gets a little confusing there, but these words have meanings. Many distinctions will be necessary in order to give a complete solution to the celebrated question whether a man may quit his country or the society of which he is a member. The children are bound by natural ties to the society in which they were born. They are under an obligation to shew themselves grateful for the protection it has afforded to their fathers, and are in a great measure indebted to it for their birth and education. They ought therefore to love it, as we have already shown in 122, to express a just gratitude to it, and requite its services as far as possible by serving it in turn. We have observed above in 2:12 that they have a right to enter into the society of which their fathers were members, but every man is born free, and the son of a citizen when come to the years of discretion. Okay, pay close attention out there, because this is where you get to declare your status, folks. But every man is born free, and the son of a citizen when come to the years of discretion may examine whether it be convenient for him to join the society for which he has destined his birth. So you have a choice. If he does not find it advantageous to remain in it, he is at liberty to quit it on making it a compensation for what it has done in his favor, and preserving, as far as his new engagements will allow him, the sentiments of love and gratitude he owes it. A man's obligations to his natural country may, however, change, lessen, or entirely vanish, according as he shall have quitted it lawfully, and with good reason, in order to choose another, or has been banished from it deservedly or unjustly, in due form of law, or by violence. Okay. Number 2 part here, part 2. As soon as the son of a citizen attains the age of manhood and acts as a citizen, he tacitly assumes that character. Oh. As soon as he acts as a citizen. Oh, like a notary public. When I act as that citizen, the person is called notary. He tacitly assumes that character. See? Actors. Act. Perform. Duties. Characteristics. Person. Personificants. His obligations, like those of others who expressly and formally enter into engagements with society, become stronger and more extensive. But the case is very difficult with respect to him of whom we have been speaking. When a society has not been formed for a determinate time, it is allowable to quit it. when that separation can take place without detriment to the society. A citizen may therefore quit the state of which he is a member, provided it be not in such a conjuncture when he cannot abandon it without doing it a visible injury. So, like if you're elected, if you're a member of the House, whether in the House of Representatives or Senate, and I don't know, in the middle of legislative session, you decide to take off. Nope, I'm done. You've abandoned your post. See that you can't, right? Question is, so when congressmen and office holders who have dual citizenship, would they be disqualified to hold office, or is dual citizenship an oxymoron and can't exist? It's the latter. You can't have dual citizenship. You can't be a citizen of one place and a citizen of another. You know, just to show that real quick, I'll have to look for that. Where citizenship test. Let me see. I know I have it. Because, like, even in the citizen, let's see if I can pull this up here. That's a practice test. No, I want the full thing. Used to be a lot easier to find when I'm on the website, but study for the test. I want all 100, dang it. Because there's 100. Here it is. Okay. Well, this is right straight from the website. What is the supreme law of the land? The Constitution. What does the Constitution do? Sets up the government, defines the government, protects basic rights of Americans. Oh, what? Huh. Primary function, right from the Declaration of Independence, the governments are instituted among men, right? That to secure these rights, the governments are instituted, instrument of government. To secure these rights. Okay. The idea of self-government is the first three words of the Constitution. What are these words? We the people. All right. Let's get down to where you have to give up. And now, just so we're aware, all of these are the correct answers. Okay, these are all acceptable answers, and they're all correct. So these are the questions and correct answers. This is not a multiple choice here. These are all correct answers. Let's see. There's one in here that talks about giving up all allegiance. Oh, let's see. What is one promise you make when you become a United States citizen? Give up loyalty to other countries. You cannot have dual citizenship. Defend the Constitution and laws of the United States. Obey the laws of the United States. Serve in the U.S. military if needed. Serve, do important work for the nation if needed. Be loyal to the United States. Okay? You have to promise to give up loyalty to your other countries. Oh, Lordy, one of those. No, citizen of the United States is not. I know, I get your U.S. Code definitions, but I just covered the definition of a citizen from the law of nations. You know, you people really need to read real law. Stop with all the garbage, the shit made up by the bar, the Roman civil law, the code. No. Stop with that crap. You need to unlearn and relearn real law. Okay? But we're kind of really getting off track here. Let's get back to law of nations, law. The science which it teaches the rights of subsistence. We stopped right here. Section 3. Some complaints, perhaps not unfounded, have been made as to the want of exactness of definition of this term. The phrase international law has been proposed in its stead. It is a system of rules deducible by natural reason from the immutable principles of natural justice and established by universal consent among the civilized inhabitants of the world. That's right. The law of nations is the law. International law. This is why I keep telling people you need to be reading this Law of Nations, written by Emery D. Vattel, not the United States Code for definitions. You've been brainwashed and indoctrinated yourself by your own doing because you haven't read real law. You're reading the shit made up by them, by the bar. Which is predominantly why I'm here right now. Trying to re-educate my fellow man on real law, the truth, facts, which I show on the screen as it is written. Not my opinion. So if you're going to try to argue with me, you're not arguing with me, you're arguing with facts of law. And you will lose that argument every time. And established by universal command of the civilized inhabitants of the world, in order to decide all disputes and to ensure the observance of good faith and justice in that intercourse which must frequently occur between them and individuals belonging to each, or it depends upon mutual compacts, treaties, leagues. Oh, would that be a confederacy, a union, league of friendship? And agreements between the separate, free, and independent communities. International law is generally divided into two branches. The natural law of nations, consisting of the rules of justice applicable to the conduct of states. The positive law of nations, which consists of the voluntary law of nations, derived from the presumed consent of nations arising out of their general usage. The conventional law of nations, derived from the express consent of nations, as evidenced in the treaties or other international compacts. 3. The customary law of nations, derived from the express consent of nations, as evidenced in treaties or other international compacts between themselves. Vattel, Law of Nations, preliminaries. Imagine that. Even Bouvet's Law Dictionary is citing Law of Nations, written by Vattel. The various sources of evidence of the law of nations are the following. The rules of conduct deducible by reason from the nature of society existing among independent states, which ought to be observed among nations. The adjudication of international tribunals, such as prize courts and boards of arbitration. Number 3, text writers of the authority. 4, ordinances of laws of particular states prescribing rules for the conduct of their commission cruisers and prize tribunals. This is all sounds like admiralty jurisdiction to me, admiralty and maritime. The history of the wars, negotiations, treaties of peace, and other matters relating to the public intercourse of nations. Treaties of peace, alliance, and commerce, declaring, modifying, or defining the pre-existing international law. The law of nations has been divided by writers into necessary and voluntary, or into absolute and arbitrary, by others into primary and secondary, which latter has been divided into customary and conventional. So this is the new words, right? That customary and conventional. Another division, which is the one more usually employed, is that of the natural and positive law of nations. The natural law of nations consists of those rules which, being universal, apply to all men and to all nations, and which may be deduced by the assistance of revelation or reason as being of utility to nations and inseparable from their existence. Positive law of nations consists of the rules and obligations which owe their origin not to the divine or natural law, but to human compacts or agreements. Those are those contracts of employment, either express or implied. That is, they are dependent on custom or convention. All right, so let's see. No. See, all this brainwashed and indoctrination from Anna von Ditz over there about repudiation. No. That's only if you want to change your country. You can't repudiate something that doesn't exist to begin with. Oh, man. All right, number 5 here. Among the Romans, there were two sorts of laws of nations, namely the primitive called primarium, and the other known by the name of secundarium, like corpus juris secundum. The primarian, that is to say, primitive or more ancient, is properly the only law of nations which human reason suggests to men, as the worship of God, the respect and submission which children have for their parents, the attachment which citizens have for their country, the good faith which ought to be the soul of every agreement, and the like. The law of nations called secundarium are certain usages which have been established among men from time to time as they have been felt to be necessary. Now, as to the law of nations generally, see Vattel's Law of Nations. Gee, I wonder why that is. Wheat on International Law, Martin's Law of Nations, Chitty's Law of Nations, the Law of Nature of Nations, Book 3. There's all sorts of different ones to see here, but the primary one is Vattel's. That's the one our founders went off of. Oh. Hey, Michael Hugan out there on Facebook. No, the military is not the only way. Learn what your rights are. Learn the law. Learn due process of law. Military is not the only way. Now, it is only proper, and most importantly, necessary, that we look at the law of nature as a definition. Because the law of nations is based on the law of nature. The law of nature is that which God, the sovereign of the universe, has prescribed to all men, not by any formal promulgation, but by the internal dictate of reason alone. It is discovered by a just consideration of the agreeableness or disagreeableness of human actions to the nature of man, and it comprehends all the duties which we owe either to the Supreme Being, to ourselves, or to our neighbors, as reverence to God, self-defense, temperance, honor to our parents, benevolence to all, a strict adherence to our engagements, gratitude, and the like. Okay. Hey, Michael, the military is subordinate to the civil power. That's right. All political power is inherent in the people, not the military. So stop saying military is the only way, because it's not. We, the people, need to come together. We need to learn the law. We need to learn how to claim and exercise this power. Because like Trump said in his inauguration speech, clear back in 2016 or 2017 there, I'm putting the power back into the people's hands. So no, the military is not the only way. It can't be. The only way is the people. Because the people are supposed to instruct the military. The people are supposed to instruct their representatives. The people are supposed to elect their representatives. The representatives are supposed to come from the body of the people, by the people, and for the people. So, now, and just in this very beginning part here, when we look at the Virginia Declaration of Rights, oh wait, I might actually have that one up. Yep. Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776. The very first thing is that all men are by nature equally free and independent, and have certain inherent rights, of which when they enter into a state of society, they cannot by any compact deprive or divest their posterity, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property and pursuing and attaining happiness and safety. You can't get rid of that. You cannot, by any compact, deprive or divest their posterity. You cannot do that, ever. That's why it's unalienable. You cannot place a lien upon them. Lien meaning give them up. And somebody holds that property because rights are an aggregate of guaranteed... Property is an aggregate of guaranteed rights. And, oh yeah, what's that? That all power is vested in and consequently derived from the people, not the military. The magistrates are our trustees and servants, and at all times amenable to them. That government is, or ought to be, instituted for the common benefit, protection, and security of the people, nation, or community. Of all the various modes and forms of government, that is best, which is capable of producing the greatest degree of happiness and safety, and is most effectually secured against the danger of what? Maladministration. Proper diction. And that whenever any government shall be found inadequate or contrary to these purposes, pay attention. A majority of the community hath an indubitable, unalienable, and indefeasible right to reform, alter, or abolish it in such manner as shall be judged most conducive to the public weal. Doesn't say the military. No, it says the people. The majority of the community have an indubitable. So there's a duty there. That's right, even the Declaration of Independence says that. It's not just a right, it's a duty. Which is why we used to do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the Republic for which it stood, or which it stands, or supposed to stand. The Republic. We're supposed to pledge allegiance to America, the Republic, the nation. But as it says here, which says it in pretty much every state constitution, in your Declaration of Rights, all political powers inherent in the people, we have the right to alter, reform, or abolish anything at any time we deem it necessary. All right. So back to that law of nature part. that religion or the duty which we owe to our Creator and the manner of discharging it can be directed by reason and conviction, not by force or violence. And therefore, all men are equally entitled to the free exercise of religion. Now pay attention again. According to the dictates of conscience. Religion is about conscience. The right of conscience. The right to think for ourselves. And that it is the mutual duty, because these rights impose a duty of all to practice Christian forbearance, love, and charity towards each other. Oh, would this be part of that law of the nation called America? Absolutely. This is the absolute law of nature of America. Part of our ideology as the theoretical foundation of all government. That's this document right here. It declares Christianity as our ideology for the nation called America. Becomes the law of the nation. So, I mean, even in the English Bill of Rights, some of the things that they were talking about here, by assuming and exercising the power of dispensing with and suspending of laws and the execution of laws without consent of Parliament. Isn't that what's been happening for a long time? Absolutely. By committing and prosecuting times where the prelates of humbly petitioning to be excused from concurring to the said assumed power. Wait, is this saying that people actually petitioned against? That would be one of them rights. The right to petition the legislature for the redress of grievances. It's a political lawsuit. That right's been around for a long time. Oh, man. Where was it? That the pretended power of suspending the laws or execution of laws by regal authority without consent of Parliament is illegal. That the pretended power of dispensing with laws, the execution of laws by regal authority, as it hath been assumed and exercised of late, is illegal. Now, again, this is 1689, folks. That the commission of erecting the late court of commissioners for ecclesiastical causes and other commissions and courts of the like nature are illegal and pernicious. That it is the right of the subjects to petition the king, and all commitments and prosecutions of such petitioning are illegal. Let's see. That right of freedom of speech and debates or proceedings in Parliament ought not to be impeached or questioned in any court or place out of Parliament. See, the right to freedom of speech has to do with speaking in the legislature, not what people think it means today. Well, I can say whatever I want. No, the right to freedom of speech has to do with debates and proceedings in the legislative branch. Like when you do a petition in there and you get to, hammer them a little bit. Yeah. It can't be used against you in any court or place out of Parliament. But see, there again, so many people don't even know what their rights are. What's this? And that for redress of all grievances and for the amending, strengthening, and preserving of the laws, parliaments ought to be held frequently. That's the thing. That's the reason why, at least in Idaho, it says the right to peaceably assemble has to do with petitioning the legislature for the redress of grievances. So when we petition the legislature, they're supposed to assemble so that we can consult for our common good, and we get to instruct our representatives to discharge the duties of their office and alter, reform, or abolish anything at any time we deem it necessary. Because that's the power of the people. That's that right of all political power. But you got to be one of the people to claim and exercise political power. Okay? Again, got to learn what your rights are, what our rights are, and learn how to claim and exercise them following due process of law. So, I want to go back over here to Bouvet's first, and then into the Law of Nations. Now see how the Virginia Declaration of Rights, as our theoretical foundation of all government here, comprehends all the duties which we owe either to the Supreme Being, to ourselves, or to our neighbors as reverence to God. Almost like they just pulled that right out of there. But this was in 1856. Imagine that. Now, there's 6 primitive laws of nature. That comparative sagacity or reason, logic and reason. This is where, are you of sound mind, possessing logic and reason? And do you have the ability to come to a reasonable conclusion based in reality? Or are you insane? So you're either of sound mind or you are insane. That's your 2 choices. There's no gray area here. Because that comparative sagacity or reason is when man is properly organized, he is able to discover moral good from moral evil. Wait a minute. What was that in the Law of Nations? That moral? Well, that was in the preliminaries, right? Where was talking about the moral? Right here. The right of being nothing more than the power of doing what is morally possible. That is to say, what is proper and consistent with duty. So, is murder? Is murder morally good or morally evil? Are you of sound mind or are you insane? Murder is morally evil. And I'm almost at the point where I want to disagree with this. And the study of man proves the man is not only an intelligent, but a free being. And he is therefore responsible for his actions. The word is responsible, not accountable. No, hold this guy accountable. No, it's responsible. Response able. Able to respond. Oh. The judgment we form of our good actions produces happiness. On the contrary, the judgment we form of our bad actions produces unhappiness. Hey, Michael, you want to know a better book to read? The Law of Nations, and maybe even Bouvet's Law Dictionary. Read some real law. Get yourself educated on real law. That's probably what you should be reading. So now, do we know the difference between good and evil? If not, you're not of sound mind. Now, the second one is that self-love, right? Or self-defense. Gee, I think in that Rahimi case here that Supreme Court of the United States just ruled on back in February of 2023 here, talking about the right to keep and bear arms, which shall not be infringed, comes from nature, the right to self-defense. And they even cited Blackstone's commentaries on the law of England, and you go in there and read it, and it's almost very, very, very close to what the Law of Nations says there, written by Emery D. Vattel, about the laws of nature. And this, right here. Every animated being is impelled by nature to his own preservation, to defend his life and body from injuries, and what? To shun what may be hurtful. That also includes the insane, because that can be hurtful in the context of what hurtful is meant here. Can be hurtful to the society by allowing an immoral society like we are allowing right now, which is in part where I wanted to go tonight, but we're seriously running out of time. Is one of the things I wanted to point out and lead to, which probably go into this next Monday night law, is this sexual immorality that's being taught in our schools, in the libraries, allowing pride events. This is sexual immorality. It is immoral. Now, I'm going to say this. If you want to be gay, homosexual, that's fine. Keep it in your home. The Fourth Amendment protects you. Because what does the Fourth Amendment say? You have the right to be secure in your houses. Not at the school. Not at the library. Not out in the streets. That's something you'll have to take up with God. But at this particular point in time, I'm done with this sexual immorality crap in my society. And I have a say in it. Because I'm a taxpayer. I'm a business owner. I'm a notary. I have an oath of office. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I have a duty to perform here. At least one. As man. Unto God and to my neighbor. And to provide all things requisite to his existence. Hence, the duty to watch over his own preservation. Now pay attention. Suicide and dueling are therefore contrary to this law, and a man cannot mutilate himself, nor renounce his liberty. You cannot mutilate yourself. So transgenderism crap, that's against the laws of nature. Hell, number 3. That's that. What? The attraction of the sexes to each other. Uh-oh. Boy, this is going to stir up some stuff, right? The attraction of the sexes has been provided for the preservation of the human race. And this law condemns celibacy. Woohoo! We're supposed to have sex. The end of marriage proves that polygamy and polyandry are contrary to the law of nature. Hence it follows that the husband and wife have what? Husband and wife have a mutual and exclusive right over each other. I don't see any other pronouns there. That's because there's only 2 sexes. You're either male or female, or man or woman, which is a man with a womb. That's it. There is nothing else. The rest of it is shit made up. It's contrary to the laws of nature. Even in the Bible it says man shall not lay with man. How are 2 men going to procreate, for the preservation of the human race? How are 2 women gonna procreate? It can't happen. The science there. This is pretty simple. Pull your pants down and look. Do you have an innie or an outie? Do you have a penis or do you have a vagina? That's your 2 choices. I'm not aware of anything else except for that hermaphrodite, which is a very strange anomaly, okay? Pretty rare. Very, very, very rare. So, that's your 2 choices. Either man or man with a womb. Womb man. That's the definition of a woman. Man with womb. Because in the beginning, God created mankind in his like image. I mean, how do we not know this? Blows my frickin' mind. Then we get into the tenderness of parents towards their children. Huh. Now, for those in family law realm of things, pay close attention here. Man from his birth is wholly unable to provide for the least of his necessities. But the love of his parents supplies for this weakness. The love is support. This is one of the most powerful laws of nature. Oh, again, it is the most powerful laws of nature. The principal duties it imposes on the parents are to bestow on the child all the care its weaknesses requires, to provide for its necessary what? Food and clothing. That's it. It doesn't say anything else. To instruct it, to provide for its wants, and to use coercive means for its good when requisite. So, like when CPS says, oh, that's medical neglect. No, I don't see that there. And it has to be criminal in nature. It would be willfully depriving the child of its necessary food or clothing. That's it. The only other cause of action would be for what? Physical or sexual abuse. All that other stuff, shit made up. And that's from the laws of nature. And again, for those out there that think I'm just, don't know what the hell I'm talking about or anything like that, why in the heck, here in Idaho, under the rules of evidence, why does it say under judicial notice, it says judicial knowledge here. Knowledge is power, right? My people shall perish for lack of knowledge. But let's look at these facts, judicially noticed. Again, we're talking facts of law. Oh, number 8, the laws of nature. No, that does not mean gravity and that kind of stuff. No. Oh, what's this? The seals of courts of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction and of notaries public. Why would they be recognizing the seal of a notary public? Wow. Quite interesting, isn't it? The power of a notary. So, these are facts of law, the laws of nature, right under the rules of evidence. How about the true signification of all English words and phrases and of legal expression? What is going on there? How about like citizen? The true signification of the English word citizen. Not the shit made up in anywhere you would find in the United States Code or the so-called 14th Amendment. And just we'll clarify that real quick because I've shared this before, that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were for the freed Negro slaves, and then I've even went further down the rabbit hole on the 14th, and it only applies to corporations. Because that's all of what really government is about, is for corporations. Personal jurisdiction, not for man. Oh, man. Now, again, courts take judicial notice of the following facts. So, it would behoove us to learn the law of nature, wouldn't it? I mean, it just makes sense to me. So, the number 5 there, which is, the religious sentiment, and then 6 is sociability. The religious sentiment, which leads us naturally towards the Supreme Being, is one of the attributes which belong to humanity alone, and its importance gives it the rank of the, what? Moral law of nature. From this sentiment arise all the sects and different forms of worship among men. Now, there's a whole lot right there. But again, it goes back to the right of conscience. According to the internal dictates of conscience. Now, under the sociability part, number 6, the need for which man feels to live in society is one of the primitive laws of nature, whence flow our duties and rights. Because rights impose them duties. And the existence of society depends on the condition that the rights of all shall be respected. Would that be like the common law? Rights as the law, because right and law comes from the French word droit, meaning right or law, so they're synonymous. On this law are based the assistance, succors, and good offices which men owe to each other, they being unable to provide each everything for himself. So, these are just the 6 primitive laws of nature. Like, this is all supposed to be common sense. This is the sad state of affairs, the state of the Union, America, the people, as nobody knows anything anymore. Then you got those people out there that seem to think they know what they're talking about, and they really just don't. Getting into the code, think you know what you're talking about when it comes to the code. When the code is the Roman civil law, which is opposed to the laws of nature, the law of nations, and the common law. Yep. Absolutely. Common sense is not common anymore. But, like it says in the Declaration of Independence, it's supposed to be self-evident. So, I mean, do you have to hit your thumb with a hammer to know that it's going to hurt? Are you one of those kinds of people? Now, this stuff isn't going to fix itself, folks. And my people shall perish for lack of knowledge. I mean, how are you supposed to argue the law when you don't know it? And ignorance of the law is no excuse. We can't claim we don't know. Which defeats the whole ideology that somebody has to go to school to learn the law. Because, I mean, boy, how many of you out there would love to do that one? Go into court and say, well, I didn't go to law school, so I don't know the law, so I guess none of this applies to me. You didn't know that murder was unlawful? You didn't know that rape was unlawful? You didn't know that was morally wrong? Morally evil? Because that's, if you didn't know that, and your mind is so deficient that you don't have a moral compass anymore, well, then we shun the insane. We lock them up in insane asylums. I mean, that's your two choices. You're either of sound mind, possessing logic and reason, and shall come to a reasonable conclusion based in reality, or you're insane. We lock up the insane. Oh, Lordy. You know, this is so freaking powerful right here. Nations being composed of men naturally free and independent. What does it mean when they're saying independent? Independent of what? Independent of anything created by his fellow man. If two of my neighbors were to enter into a contract, would I be bound by what they create? Just because they're my neighbor? The logical answer to that, the reasonable answer to that would be no. Because I'm not a party, I am independent of that contract. Just like the Constitution. If I'm not a member of the legislative, executive, or judicial branch, I am not bound by the Constitution. And that's the thing about notaries. Now, how many people know this? But a notary actually comes from the common law. It's not actually part of the Constitution. It comes from a different body of law. Just saying. But that's what that free, naturally free to do whatever the heck I want to do regarding that basic principle of law. Do no harm. And unless I cause harm, there is no standing for any man to claim a right to a cause of action, to take any action, to act in a certain way against me without a cause of action, probable cause of action. There has to be an injured party. Plain and simple. But this is all part of being free and independent. And see, this naturally, fundamentally, and principally is the law. And there's no reason to change your status from this to anything else, because this is our status. Fundamentally and principally. Already comes naturally. I am man, creation of God. There's no need to change that status. Just claim it. Declare it. Anytime you need to declare that. Whatever situation you're in. And again, it is a settled point with writers on the natural law that all men inherit from nature a perfect liberty and independence, of which they cannot be deprived without their own consent. I don't know. I don't know how to get this through to people that this is it. This is at the root of all law right here. This comes first, and anything that comes in conflict with this is void for any effect. Now, Contract Law 101. Contracts must be lawfully obtained or it's fraud. Like the birth certificate is, in fact, fraud. Because that did not meet all the elements of a lawfully obtained contract. It was under duress. In some instances, under threats of violence, coercion. There's never, ever been full disclosure, meeting of the minds, offer and acceptance, mutually beneficial. Yeah, right. So, that's that consent without fraud. No trickery, no scheme, scam, artifice. That's all fraud. I do not need to change my status from I am man, creation of God, to anything else. In a state, the individual citizens do not enjoy them fully and absolutely. Now again, those are those citizens as defined in subsection 212, which are members of the legislative, executive, or judicial branch who are bound, right? Because they have made a partial surrender of them to the people. Because they're bound to perform certain duties. And there's a different process that is due to them from the law of the land or supreme law of the land, because law of the land literally means due process of law. That's the processes that they are bound by, which we're also bound by, the processes that is due to them. If you want to remove them from office, you have to follow the process that is due to them. The common law process is a little bit different because that's suits between man and man. Suits at common law versus suits in law or, I don't know, impeachments. Right? There's sole power of impeachment is in the House. The sole power to trial impeachments is in the Senate. Well, how come we're not all going through that? Oh, because we're not elected officials requiring impeachment to be removed from office. Because we're not in office. So that's the whole point I'm trying to make here about due process of law. There are many, many different aspects of due process of law. It just depends on who they are, who you're dealing with. There may be a process that is due to them that is different than the process that may be due to us as man in the private, because they're in law. Man is at common law, the laws of nature. So that's that. There again, individual, is a member. It's a member of something. Are you a member of the legislative branch? Are you a member of the executive branch? Are you a member of the judicial branch? while acting in that capacity. Okay? You know, again, as it says here, as men are subject to the laws of nature, and as their union in civil society cannot have exempted them from the obligation to observe those laws, since by that union they do not cease to be men. The entire nation, whose common will is but the result of the united wills of the citizens, remains subject to the laws of nature, and is bound to respect them in all her proceedings. So, if anything comes in conflict with the laws of nature, it is void for any effect. Which is why I'm stressing this so much, to learn the laws of nature and what our God-given rights are, and how to effectively claim and exercise them, and to defend them, following the law, due process of law, depending on who it is you're dealing with. But you have to have this knowledge first. There ain't jack shit you could do to defend yourself without having this knowledge. And this is that higher level of consciousness that I've talked about here a little while ago, that where I've gotten is it's like I literally feel different. Over the years, the more and more I've learned, the more power I literally feel this power. Now, for those of you that are new, you don't know some of the things that I've done. Some of you that have been around a while have seen some of the videos, like where I was down at the Idaho Capitol, where I've stood toe-to-toe with cops. Okay? Let me tell you, in the moment, it is in the spirit. And the words just fly out of my mouth, let me tell you. Because I've learned it. I have that knowledge, and it has literally empowered me. And remember, our tongues are sharper than a double-edged sword. So when I speak the law, real law, I'm not talking about code, I'm talking rights as the law. And even the Constitution as law of the land, or supreme law of the land, that they are supposed to be bound by. It cuts them down. Plenty of people that have witnessed this firsthand. So when are you going to learn? When are you going to learn this stuff? When are you going to read this stuff for yourselves? Because nobody is responsible for our education but us. Can't blame the schools, can't blame the government, you can't blame anybody but ourselves. At best, you could blame your parents, your mother and your father. Because that's part of one of the laws of nature, right? So I'd say parents have been derelict in their duties in teaching their kids. And this is where our society as a whole has been failing. Lack of education, lack of knowledge. Okay? Well, Lee, we have to live by the law. We're the ones that are supposed to follow the law. We're the ones that are supposed to follow due process of law. Stop blaming them for not following the law. Hold them responsible. What part of that are we not getting here? I don't care if they're not following due process of law. Follow the law to hold them responsible. Now, there are certain instances that you can use the code against them, right? Especially when it comes to creating certain things or regulating certain agencies within government and that kind of stuff. But again, ultimately, it is up to us to learn this. We have to follow due process of law. Okay, those without sin may cast the first stone. So there's a process that's due to your fellow man, to your fellow public servant, which may be different. And if we're not following that process that's due to them, we're just as guilty as they are. You know, so many times I've heard, well, they're violating my right to due process of law. Well, then follow due process of law and hold them responsible. Oh, but you don't know. There's the problem. So you just sit there and bitch and moan and complain to anybody who will listen to you. I don't know, for sympathy or whatever. But I ain't here for a frickin' pity party. It's time to take some action, folks. You can't take any action if you don't know the process, the steps to take to hold them responsible. So this goes right back to the Declaration of Independence. Flat out. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Right here. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. And that's it, right there. People sitting around bitching and complaining about how they're violating our rights. You'd just rather sit there and suffer and wallow in your own self-pity than to right yourselves, which means to get right with God, get the law, rights and law, rights as the law. See? But when a long train of abuses, where did it go? And usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. So before we can claim absolute despotism, we have to claim and exercise the right of petition. Because that's in part how we alter, reform, or abolish anything at any time we deem it necessary, which is why in the English Bill of Rights of 1689 and other various documents throughout history, as they made it unlawful to retaliate against us when we do petition. Now, we have a new form of government as of 1776 here. A republic. Not a monarchy. And there's, again, due process of law here. That's what we need to be doing. Following what the right dictates the process is. Like, I don't know, petition the legislature for the redress of grievances. not the judicial. Article 4, Section 4 specifically states on application of the legislature or the executive if the legislature cannot be convened for domestic violence, which is internal insurrection. When the public servants attempt to overthrow the Constitution, war against the people, that is internal insurrection. That is domestic, internal violence. That's what Article 4, Section 4 is about. It has nothing to do with family law, and Congress had no authority to redefine what domestic violence is and create the Violence Against Women Act of 1995, which was found to be unconstitutional in U.S. versus Morrison in 2000. Yeah, because Congress doesn't have that authority to begin with. Because it was manifest, it was not left to, what? The legislative branch to make anything due process of law. Due process of law comes from the common law. Uh-oh. Doesn't come from a statute. Man, so many miseducated people out there. Oh, drives me nuts. You think you know what you're talking about, and you really just don't. You should stop. You need to study real law, folks. Real law. God's law, the laws of nature. Read from the Law of Nations. Read from Bouvet's Law Dictionary, 1856. It's heavy on the common law stuff. You still have to read between the lines and, take the good stuff and kick the bad stuff to the sides. But I've been very enlightened by reading from Bouvet's Law Dictionary, 1856. Okay. Now, another thing on that, before we head out for the evening, which we're after 9 already, go to my website, FerksLawCorner.com. Go to the library tab. Now, again, I have put these in kind of a chronological order of things to start reading from, because people over the years have, well, where should I start? What should I start reading? Right here. Organize this in a chronological order of things to start reading first. Basically, providing the answer to that question of what we should be reading first. Like I said, this is a good place to start reading to learn the basics of the American common law and the law of nations, or the principles of the law of nature as international law, like I just covered. That's a fact of law. So here's a treatise on arrest and false imprisonment by Charles Weisman. The Authority of Law by Charles Weisman. This goes into showing you exactly how a statute is supposed to be made, so you can tell the difference between the code and a real statute. Which is why none of the code is lawful. United States Code, not lawful. Code of Federal Regulations, not lawful. Uniform Commercial Code, not lawful. Idaho Code, not lawful. It's all code, folks. That's the Roman civil law. The Law of Nations. And then the Report of the Commission on Unalienable Rights. What a great read, and I still have yet to read all of this report. But it also talks about, laws of nature. Naturally, fundamentally, and principally, we have these rights. This is in part what's going on, has been going on for a little while. I'm getting there. But the people are going to have to come together, and they're going to have to learn this one. Elements of the law and practice of the legislative assemblies in the United States of America. This is Lex Parliamentary Americana. This is the law. You know, people ask about, well, where can I find the common law stuff? Right here. This is the law for the legislative assemblies in the United States of America. Again, let me reiterate that again. This is the law and practice. They didn't teach this in law school, did they? Any bar members out there want to pipe up and say, they taught us the elements of the law and practice of legislative assemblies in the United States of America? No, they didn't. They taught them code pleadings. They taught them the Roman civil law. They don't teach them law. In fact, they don't even teach them the Constitution in law school. Now, secondary, Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure. This is the 2010 edition. Okay? And when reading in this book, you're going to find many references to cushion. I wonder why Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure, because these are rules of procedure. Why does it reference Lex Parliamentary Americana? It just says cushion. Almost on every single page, sometimes 2, 3, 4 times on a page, references this Lex Parliamentary Americana. Because this is the law and practice of the legislative assemblies of the United States of America. This is the book to read. Like I keep saying, read some real law. Now you have Jefferson's manual over here, which is what they originally used back in the Senate, back in Thomas Jefferson's day. And then here's an older one, I believe that, 1953 edition of Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure. So you can read the 1953 edition and compare it to the 2010 edition and see how much they've changed from there. But then you really want to get enlightened, again, read the law and practice of the legislative assemblies of the United States of America, Lex Parliamentary Americana, and see how much they've really messed with the law. Now, you want to learn about the Constitution. Here's Joseph Story's Commentaries on the Constitution. Comes in 3 different volumes. There you go. There's some real law type stuff to read about the Constitution itself. Now, here is Bouvet's Law Dictionary, 1856, right here. And what is it? Law Dictionary. I can't read that part. Constitution and... I wonder if I can do this. Yeah. Constitution and laws of the United States of America and the several states of the American Union with references. The civil and other systems of foreign law. Like the Roman civil law. Because, by the way, Bouvet's Law Dictionary exposes the Roman civil law is the code. And the code is opposed to the laws of nature, the law of nations, the common law. And it's all enforced through bills of pains and penalties. Now, if you read the Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, and 10, both state and federal, bills of attainder are prohibited. Huh. That's why I keep saying stay away from the code. Stop referring to the United States Code. And then I do have Black's Law Dictionary here. I think this is 4th. Yeah, this is the revised 4th edition, 1968. And then here, you really wanted to get into some good stuff, maxims of law. Okay? Maxims of law are like the rule of law, like the rule of mathematics. You know, what the plus sign, the minus sign, the multiplication sign, the division sign mean. That's the rules of principles of mathematics that dictate the correct answer every time, regardless of your feelings. Like 2 plus 2 equals 4. You're either of sound mind, possessing logic and reason, and shall come to a reasonable conclusion based in reality here that 2 plus 2 equals 4, or you are insane. Because the maxims or principles, rule of law, of mathematics dictate that is the correct answer. And I do have the Virginia Declaration of Rights up here, but a couple other things. 1776 report. That's the President's advisory. This is the one that educates us on what's going on here. Is the like critical race theory and those kinds of things. We need to get educated on that stuff. We need to be aware of what's going on. And then back to the right of petition to alter, reform, or abolish anything at any time we deem it necessary. So that's what I've got laid out here for you, folks. And if you'd like to help support me over here doing this free education, you can join my Patreon, or you can send it through the snail mail. Over there, it'll be office 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Suite C, Boise, Idaho 83704. Any of those postal money orders, cashier checks, any regular money orders, cash wrapped in aluminum foil, any of that kind of stuff. Send that over to the office. I'd greatly appreciate that. Otherwise, if you want to do like a monthly thing over on my Patreon, that's tier 1, tier 2. Tier 1's $5 a month. Tier 2 is $10 a month. I just set that up for people to, basically a monthly contribution for support. Okay. Where did my Patreon? There it is. Now tier 3 will get you into the Wednesday night workshop. It's private classes, private education. And then if you're looking for one-on-one time with me, that's tier 4. Okay, so go to the Patreon website and look at that. I'm not going to click on it because the way it logs me in, you won't see really my Patreon. You'll see like an administrator login type stuff. But that's what I have set up for people that want to get in on Wednesday night workshops, the private classes, and any one-on-one type stuff, private stuff. That's tier 4. Okay. Other than that, under the links tab on my website, other places to watch videos is Rumble to watch live, which I'm live on there right now. Facebook page, yes, I still have that going, broadcasting live on it right now. Telegram, broadcasting live on it right now. I didn't put my YouTube in here because I thought maybe it was gonna get shut down. I already got one news strike since I've come back again on YouTube, so hanging on there. Okay, so that right there is the three main ones, plus YouTube if you're on there watching right now, which some of you are. So that's the main stuff that I have. Those are my main channels. Now, Telegram is really where I do a lot of sharing files and information and other video type stuff. Okay? So that's what I'm referring to if you want to help support what I'm doing. Because this is what I do. This is what I've dedicated my life to doing here. So that's what I have for you here. Aside from the educational series, this will right on my website. Just go right here, episode 1. Okay, and I've added a couple episodes in there in that playlist, going over the laws of nature. 2 different videos on that. Okay, so, but this will take you right there on my YouTube channel. It'll take you to the educational series. They are actually on my Facebook page as well in a playlist. So that's what I have for you folks out there to learn from on your own time for free. Okay? Again, my people shall perish for lack of knowledge. And this stuff isn't going to fix itself. We need the people to come together. And that was the one last thing would like to share here. Is the national-assembly.net. This is where the people are coming together and reassembling our de jure Republican form of government, the General Assembly. So here, national-assembly.net. Every Thursday night, there's a conference call. Click on that tab right there, conference call info. Okay? If you download and install free conference call, you can download it on your desktop, laptop. You can actually install free conference call on your cell phones. Okay? App Store or the Play Store for both. And click right on that and get in. Now here's some tutorial videos for your smartphones. Here's the tutorial video for your desktop. Now, right here, join freeconferencecall.com, National Assembly. There's the link right there. So you go right here to national-assembly.net. You click on the conference call info. You scroll down here and you can click right on that link and it will take you right there. Okay? Now, let's say you don't have internet, you don't do a smartphone, you don't have a desktop, you don't do any of that. You still want to connect? You can dial in with a phone. Okay? This still will get you in there. Now, I would like to recommend that people make sure that they mute themselves when they first come in and remain muted unless you intend to speak and there is a decorum. You have to ask to speak. It's called "May I?" And you have to wait for the moderator to recognize you and give you the floor. You don't just get to say, may I, and then start talking. We're supposed to be a little civilized here. It's called a decorum. Kind of like a code of conduct. How we conduct ourselves in a meeting. So, the first part of the session, is a business, the assembly business. Now, National-Assembly is a business providing education. It is not actually the National Assembly, because we can't have a National Assembly until we assemble at least a sufficient amount of number of states. I thought it was 34, it might be 38, one of the two. But a little bit at a time. And then, after the business portion of the call, then it goes into the general discussion, education, Q&A. I believe it's *6 to mute and unmute yourself on your phones. If you're using the app, which I highly recommend using the app, whether it's on your desktop or it's on your phone, your smartphone, it has the mute and unmute button right there, your microphone button. Okay? And if you are using that, make sure that you are muted at all times. There's no reason to have your microphone unmuted unless you intend to speak. Other than that, keep your microphone muted. It's disrespectful to everybody in the meeting. Hearing your background noises and all sorts of conversations going on in the background that you're having with somebody else, not paying attention. Which, we get it. Life happens, right? Sometimes you gotta let the dog out. Sometimes you gotta, I don't know, whatever. It's okay. Just keep yourself muted and, be respectful for the rest of the people that are in there trying to learn, listen, and learn. All right? Now, there's also some other stuff here. There's the forums and blog. So there's a lot of stuff that's in there. Start with the resources. You can start right there. If you're new, even if you aren't new, this might be new to you. Here's the current situation. Here's a little bit of an update. Okay, where things are going, what's going on. That the Reconstruction Acts have been made void. So, a lot of people are not even aware of what's really been going on and what is going on military-wise. And it's important that we reassemble. Okay? Let's see. Assembly supporting videos is a good place to start. To just watch some videos here. Now, I don't know if there's a couple of these. Oh, no, okay. I think he fixed them. Then there's some state websites here. If you want to contact them, right there, send an email. Say, hey, I'm from such and such state. Can you get me in contact with the coordinator or whatever from that state? And they'll get you in contact with them. Okay? There's our mission statement there too. Or I should say their mission statement, which is to provide education. I wonder if this is... I'll be darned. This is where I went over that American state national crap. Okay? And broke it down and even went into the United States Code. The term national of the United States means a citizen of the United States, or a person who, though not a citizen, owns permanent allegiance to the United States. But it's an elected official. And you have to be elected And so by virtue of holding office, you get that term national. But again, I want to point out while I'm right here, from etymology, that word national as a noun didn't come into existence until 1887. Think about that for just as long as you need. That's after the Reconstruction Acts. And the only place to find it is in the Code, which I've already explained that the Code is not the law. It's Roman civil law, but it doesn't belong here. It's foreign to our form of government and repugnant to our law, because it is opposed to the laws of nations, the laws of nature, and the common law. Don't be confused with national as an adjective. Because what a lot of these people out there are talking about, you got to change your status, you got to repudiate and blah, 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 and become an American state national. Show me where that is from the law. Because it doesn't exist outside of the Code. It's the only place right here to find anything about national. And again, it didn't come into being as a noun, as a, what? Yeah, till 1887. So, a lot of things going on this website, national-assembly.net. Now, Jason, with his hardline, he's got some pretty good podcasts going on here. Oscar's actually a gentleman that I did one video with him on the training manual. I know, Citizenship training manual, but it's a military training manual. So, again, my problem with that is that some of the verbiage that's in there is not correct. It's not. It's all part of the, like a Reconstruction era stuff, and it's just everybody's a citizen. No, not everybody is a citizen. Per the law of nations. Real law, definition of what a real citizen is, which I posted here, right there. Law of Nations, Vattel, Book 1, Chapter 19, subsection 212. Again, citizens are the members of the civil society bound to the society by, what? Certain duties and subject to its authority. Okay? Putting the pieces of them puzzles together, you know. So, there you have it. That's what all I have for you tonight, folks. Much love. God bless. Pray for our military service members, the good guys, our U.S. Marshals, which is part of that civil power that the military is subordinate to. You know, part of that power of the militia, which goes, I don't know, where's that, right? Part of the militia there. Oh, wait, no, that's wrong one. That's this one. Here we go. That a well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people, which is why the Second Amendment says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, is so that the people are armed. Trained to arms is the proper, natural, and safe defense of a free state. Now, that's pretty much the Second Amendment, right? That well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state. You know, the state of being free and independent. That's that state of being, state of nature, that man is fundamentally and principally in the state of nature, free and independent. that free state. And it's a militia, not a police, which is standing armies, armed bodies of men. Even the Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia. So many people have argued, oh yeah, that the right to keep and bear arms has to do with being in the militia. No, it does not. That would be the bar and the judicial branch twisting that through case law, stare decisis, which the judicial branch doesn't have the power to make law. Not in our republic. But that's been changed again, right? The Heller case, 2008, Supreme Court of the United States said, no. We all have the right to keep and bear arms, to defend ourselves in our homes. And now it's, with the Rahimi case and the Bruin case. It was the Bruin case. That was February. Rahimi was June. So, of 2023. That the right to keep and bear arms comes from the laws of nature. The right to self-defense. That's the reason why we have the right to keep and bear arms, which shall not be infringed. So this is all in part of what's been going on, this change, one of them being change of the guards in our Congress. And like I've said here in Idaho, we had a 51% changeover in our Idaho legislature. Is that not a change of the guards? But we really, really, really want to do the real change and really take back our power. That's going to be over here on the national-assembly.net. Reassembling government de jure that was stripped of us, essentially, starting in 1861, 1863. Could have even be considered clear back to originally 1878. Was it 1887, 1889, and 1891 with the Bill of Rights was actually the first bankruptcy. Just saying. So, that militia there, the organized or well-regulated, is regulated by the people, because remember, the military is subordinate to the civil power. So that's, when we're talking about the Second Amendment and the well-regulated militia, that's the military, both state and federal. That's why the governor is the commander-in-chief. That's why the president of the state and the president is commander-in-chief of the nation. But he's the top dog. Okay? He's the commander-in-chief of the Army and the Navy. States are just of the Army, because not supposed to maintain a Navy within the states. That's under the president. So, and that is where we're at. All right, hopefully all of that might at least plant a seed from what I shared tonight. And we'll prompt some people to do some reading on their own, or watch more of my videos. Not aware of too many people out there teaching the people real law. If you do, send them my way. Yep. But, the powers, all of the power, all political power is inherent in the people. All of it. Not some of it, not most of it, but all of it. So, this is why the military is not the only way. Really, the only way is for the people to reassemble and claim and exercise the political power and kick these tyrants to the curb. Abolish all these unlawfully created agencies. It's all foreign to our form of government. Okay? That's where the real power is at, is in the people, not in the military. Military is handling world things. But when it comes to governmental stuff, that's us. We're supposed to take care of that. And then we're the ones that are supposed to be declaring war and instructing the executive branch to execute the law. Just saying, that's a fact of law. Even per the law of nations, even per military law. They have to respect the civilians. Imagine that. So, God bless. Have a wonderful night, folks. And we will catch you on the flip side. See you Wednesday night there in Wednesday Night Workshop, folks. God bless. Thank you all for being here. Make sure you like, follow, and share. Whichever one's your favorite there. And I'll be posting the Rumble on